Wendy Ord and Glen of Mountain Lake Films have created a niche for themselves in independent filmmaking, despite the absence of a notable film industry in Lake Country. Seeking to use film as a vehicle for their artistic and socio-political commentary, Wendy and Glen have successfully transgressed the boundaries and confines of a single genre in their pursuit of stories to tell and films to produce. They also discuss the film business, the challenges associated with producing films in an environment that is becoming saturated with video media, and the financial consequences of this trend. However, they also discuss the advantages of technological advancement, and in particular, their new octocopter, a tool which is slowly eclipsing the need for helicopters and planes for panoramic and sweeping aerial footage.
I've always wanted to be an artist. I met an artist when I was about 6, and she was very cool looking, so I wanted to be an artist. Neither of my parents were artistic, but luckily they supported me in the pursuits that I took on, and went to Ryerson for photography and ended up in film and television. I just fell in love with the medium the moment I was introduced to it.
I'd always been in business, and at probably around 35 years old, I wrote a screenplay out of the blue, and that set me on the, on the course that here we are 15 years later. So I thought, well, if I'm going to do it, let's go for a gusto and write it as a movie.
And I might just add that first screenplay that he ever wrote won a huge number of international awards. And at the time, Canada was making huge budget American pictures, and I started in the industry as a sound assistant. And so I got to work on these giant feature films at the time with big stars like Richard Burton and Jack Lemmon and Anne Margaret, and it was a pretty exciting time in I was 18, 19 years old in my career. That was a highlight for sure. I actually knew who the actors were. It's all about compromise. It's business versus art, our vision versus somebody else's, what will sell, what doesn't sell. We're constantly, as artists, working towards a commercial goal, as well as being able to be artistic and be creative. We really have to think about the business of filmmaking. It's very expensive to make movies, and therefore we have to sell them. I am in love with this art form because I love visuals, and I love music, and I love stories, and I love color and light, and for me it was more of a innate draw to being able to use all of those things in our art. I think Glen's idea of message is certainly something that came later to me. My draw was definitely the fact that I can use all of those things in one piece. We try not to compromise in terms of look. We always try and make it look like $1 million, or we try not to compromise in terms of message. I think those are our two main things. But we are forced to compromise financially.
Film is, in effect, art by committee anyways. On a typical film, how many other artists are there working on it? There's 60, 70 different actors, crew members, editors afterwards, sound people, each of them collaborating towards what is hopefully a strongly communicated vision by a director or writer-director. But there's so many people that are collaborating on that piece of art anyways, that you could not do it without, in some form, compromising. And it's not always compromising. Sometimes quite often actually, it turns out better,
I think a lot of people ask us, how do you do this and remain married and not kill each other? We both respect each other's ideas a lot, and we do argue back and forth a lot, but we know that we don't have it until we both agree. Whether it's story, whether it's a scene that we wrote, whether it's a piece of dialogue, whether it's the way the film is edited, until we both agree it's right, it's not right. First of all, Tora came about because of Lake Country. We moved onto this property and there were some old falling down buildings at the back. And we asked the neighbors and they said it was a Japanese internment camp years during the World War II. That didn't turn out to be true, but it started us really being intrigued by the story. That, especially being from Eastern Canada, we didn't really know much about the Japanese internment during World War II, so we started to research it. We felt that we wanted to tell a story about it, but not in a kind of documentary, teacherly type of way. We wanted it to be entertaining. So we wanted to tell a modern day story and speak to people who didn't know about it, and not speak to the Japanese who were interned or their children, but speak to a broader audience and make sure that it was entertaining enough that people would watch it and learn about what happened back then.
A lot, if not most of the crew were local.
Yeah.
Right? And all of the extras were local. And I guess the three main actors were
From Vancouver.
from Vancouver, yeah. Yeah, we tried casting, we did do auditions here locally for the two leads besides Suzuki, but we didn't find what we were looking for, so.
We actually had a huge local crew in all of our Japanese
Extras, yeah.
extras. They were all local people, and a lot of them from Lake Country, actually. Writing is really gratifying, and it's kind of the place where everything begins for a filmmaker. It's our box of paints.
As, you know, quote unquote filmmakers, the actual percentage of our time that we spend behind a camera or we're working with an actor or directing or editing or even scoring a film is minuscule compared to the time that has to be put into, sort of all other aspects of filmmaking. And unfortunately, there's an awful lot of business involved, marketing plans and distribution plans and estimates and all that sort of thing. It's one of the aspects of it that we don't particularly enjoy, I would say, right?
Definitely. And unfortunately, it's about, I'd say 80% of our job to be business people, to write budgets, make sales estimates, sell our product to someone else. That's the worst thing about being a filmmaker.
How much of what we see every day now is film and or video, more and more and more, right? Doesn't it just seem natural that more high art is going to include that or work with that? That we've embarked upon to continually make our projects better, to make them look more beautiful, is flying an octocopter, that's called. And it's this amazing, reasonably new piece of technology that's and quite possibly going to replace Steadicams as they
and dollies
and dollies
cranes and planes and helicopter shots.
Yeah,
it's an inexpensive way to get beautiful aerial shots. And Glen spent all summer building this amazing piece of gear, and we've just been testing it by driving. We've just driven all across the United States, and we've been flying it all over every beautiful place we could find. So we hope to kind of use this octocopter as another way to make income, you know, to be able to rent it out to other films and also to make our projects more interesting and right up there on the cutting edge of technology. So it's pretty exciting. Wait till you see it. It's so fun. And Glen drives the helicopter and I operate the camera on it. So we can do shots that do this now. All over Lake Country you'll see us.
Yeah, that's true actually.